Jason's spirit lingered in the mortal world, watching his blind mother struggle through his funeral arrangements.
Jason. My son. Why did you leave me all alone?
She seemed to have aged 10 years overnight, clutching a white urn tightly, her exhausted body convulsing with sobs. Inside the urn were Jason's ashes, her only remaining connection to this world.
Your father is gone, and now you too. What's the point of leaving a disabled mother behind? Why wasn't it me instead of you, my son?
Mom. I'm sorry. It's all my fault.
The most heartbreaking thing in the world is for a parent to outlive their child. Jason knelt on the ground, bowing his head heavily, tears streaming down like smoke.
If only I had one more day. Just one more day. I could have brought my mother back to the light, away from those vile people.
Just then, Martha seemed to sense Jason's presence.
Jason?
But before she could turn around, the door was kicked open, startling her.
Ryan! Even a dog would do a better job than you.
Sophia entered with Ethan, whose cold expression mirrored her impatience.
You caused Ethan's company's stock to plummet by 10 points. You embarrassed me completely. Get out here now. If you don't apologize to Ethan today, we're getting a divorce.
The house was empty, with no sign of Jason. Sophia raised an eyebrow and kicked Martha's cane away.
Old hag, where's your son?
Instinctively, Jason tried to shield his mother, but he grasped at nothing. Without her cane, Martha stumbled, nearly falling to the ground. She carefully placed Jason's ashes on the table.
How dare you ask where Alexis is?
The pain of losing her son made Martha feel like she was living in hell. She grabbed Sophia's shoulder with surprising strength.
He was taken from me because of you, you shameless vixen.
Sophia was caught off guard, pinned against the wall by Martha.
Sophia!
Ethan kicked Martha hard, sending her flying. Jason watched in horror as his mother hit the ground heavily, blood streaming down her forehead.
Mom! No!
Old hag, what's your problem?
Sophia quickly walked over to Martha, grabbing her hair, her face twisted with anger.
Don't think that pretending to be crazy will get Ryan off the hook. Make him come back immediately. If he doesn't come back and apologize to Ethan on his knees today, none of you will have a good time.
I said. Ryan is gone. You took him from me.
Sophia's actions paused, her face showing shock and disbelief. But Ethan's mocking laughter rang out.
Sophia choosing to be with me is only natural. Your son was useless. How can you blame Sophia for marrying him and causing his end?
This pair of adulterers made Jason sick to his stomach. He tried again and again to pry Sophia's hands away but couldn't save his mother.
Call Ryan. If he doesn't kneel and apologize to me within 3 minutes.
Sophia grabbed Martha's head and slammed it onto the thumbtacks.
Then he can come back and collect your remains.
The thumbtacks pierced deeply into Martha's cheek, crimson blood trickling down. I went berserk, attacking Sophia.
You witch! Let go!
I used all my strength to try to pull Sophia's hand away from Martha, to remove the thumbtacks from her face. But my body passed through her again and again. Anger and regret consumed me.
Sophia. Since you married into this family, my son has treated you like a treasure, and I have treated you like my own daughter. We have given you everything. Why did you harm my son? What did our family do to deserve this from you? Tell me. Answer me.
Your family has wronged me in every way. You think you can reach for the stars, but you disgust me. The very sight of you makes me sick. Even a dog wouldn't act like this. Since that wretched dog ran away, you deserve to take the blame.
The sound of her head hitting the table made my heart clench.
Witch! Let go! You're going to harm my mom!
Martha's face was covered in thumbtacks. Sophia, you're a monster. Worse than a beast. Will you only be satisfied when my mom is gone? Martha has always loved beauty. Even when she lost her sight, she kept herself neat and tidy. But now, seeing her in this miserable state made me want to tear myself apart.
Sophia, I'm not that petty. It's just a few billion. I only want an apology. No need to dirty your hands for me.
Under Ethan's persuasion, Sophia's grip gradually loosened.
Ethan, you're so magnanimous, letting them off so easily. I will make sure to give you an explanation.
Sophia finally let go, but she kicked Martha in the waist, sending her sprawling to the ground. Martha fell painfully, her hand pressing onto the thumbtacks. But her bloodshot eyes were still filled with endless hatred.
Sophia! You're nothing but a despicable woman. You and your lover will never have a good end. How dare you stand in front of me with your lover? You should be the one to lead this world. Want to see Alexis? Dream on.
Shut up, old hag. If you ruin my chances with Ethan, I'll make you suffer.
Sophia looked down at Martha, who was cursing her, with disgust, as if seeing my face that she loathed.
Adulterers, huh? You can insult me, but not Ethan. You've successfully angered me, old hag. Blind and still daring to glare at me. Consider these eyes as interest for the 3 billion. Want to see the light again? I'll tell you. It's impossible in this lifetime.
In her rage, Sophia grabbed Martha's gray hair and forcefully inserted her fingers into her eye sockets. Martha screamed in agony, yet still roared in fury.
Harm me! If you have the guts, harm me! Then I can see my son again!
She screamed again and again. And Sophia, even more enraged, completely lost her sanity. In an instant, blood spurted out. Sophia's hand held 2 round eyeballs.
You old hag. Do I have to do something drastic to get Ryan to come out?
Sophia threw down the nearly unconscious Martha, her face full of disgust.
Darling, your hands got dirty.
Ethan took out a handkerchief, leisurely wiping Sophia's hands. I watched in horror as he casually crushed something under his foot. Tears blurred my vision almost instantly. I fell to my knees beside Martha, overwhelmed with helplessness, pain, and guilt.
Mom, your son didn't mean to hurt you.
But how could Martha ever blame me? Even though she couldn't see me, she never held a grudge, only contempt and disdain for Sophia.
Alexis will never see you again, he despises you. My son has always been with me.
She tilted her head toward the ceramic urn on the table, as if she could see it. That was the last thing I left for my mother. My ashes.
Sophia, since this old hag has apologized, I won't be so petty.
Ethan picked up the urn and laughed maliciously.
This urn looks pretty nice. Let's take it back and use it as a chamber pot. Spending billions on a broken urn, that's a good deal, right?
No. Give it back to me. Give it back. Those are Alexis's ashes.
Sophia was momentarily stunned, looking at the urn in Ethan's hand. I thought she might soften and at least let my mother go. But she didn't.
Old hag, do you think I would believe you? Ryan would never end his life. You're trying to deceive me.
Sophia's lips curled into a mocking smile as she took the urn from Ethan, the sound of it jingling on her wrist.
If you're so good at acting, let's see how far you can go. I'll dump this into the toilet right now and fill it with your old bones.
No. Don't dump it. Sophia, I'm begging you. No, old hag. The old hag is begging you. Give me back Alexis's ashes.
Martha's head hit the ground heavily, slapping herself repeatedly.
It's all my fault. The old hag apologizes to you.
The sound of slaps was crisp, blood continuously flowing from Martha's eye sockets, almost breaking my heart.
Mom, don't do this. Your son is unfilial.
I choked, trying to lift Martha, but my hands passed through her body again and again. I had never hated myself as much as I did now. I wanted to tell Martha to stop, to not humble herself for me. But how could Martha ever abandon me? Abandon her son? Ethan's lips curled up as he walked to Martha. Hearing the sound, Martha reached out excitedly to retrieve my ashes, but was met with a vicious slap. The blow turned Martha's face, causing her to spit out a blood-stained tooth.
Old hag, if you're apologizing, do it sincerely. Otherwise, how can a few slaps compensate for my billions in losses?
Martha paused, then cried and laughed, slapping herself harder and harder.
It's all the old hag's fault. I'm sorry for troubling you. Please, just give me back my son's ashes.
All right, I'll give them back.
Sophia strode to Martha, prying her mouth open. Then she began stuffing the ashes into Martha's mouth, handful by handful.
If you want them so badly, then eat them. This way, you'll never be separated from your son.
I watched as Martha's expression changed from confusion to madness. She desperately tried to spit out my ashes, but Sophia held her mouth shut, blood tears streaming from Martha's eyes. Finally, I gave in. To hell with the saying that a man kneels only to gold. I couldn't even protect my own mother. What kind of man was I?
I know I was wrong. Please, let my mother go. Take out your anger on me. Sophia, I'm begging you.
I banged my head on the ground, shouting as my body turned from transparent to solid. Sophia's actions paused. She turned around, staring in shock at my now visible form, her red lips parting.
Ryan?
I never imagined Sophia would be unfaithful. And now, she's causing a scene for this other man. We had shared so many years of marriage. I once thought I was her true love. But everything collapsed when Ethan appeared. For the first time, I saw the usually cold Sophia smile so brightly.
Though she had pursued me relentlessly over the years, sometimes even staring at my face in a daze, she had never looked at me with the same intense gaze she had for Ethan. It was so intense, I found it hard to look away.
We met at the university's freshman welcome party. The moment she saw me, she was distracted. She even dropped her milk tea on the ground without realizing it.
Sure, I'm handsome, but not enough to make such a beautiful girl lose her focus.
I thought it was just a fleeting moment, but Sophia became increasingly obsessed after meeting me. Every morning, I would see her waiting for me outside the dormitory. She didn't bother me much, just silently handed me breakfast. No matter where I was on campus, Sophia would follow me like a shadow, quietly preparing everything I needed.
My roommates were all envious, praising my good fortune. To have such a beautiful girl chasing after me so fervently.
Although I didn't have strong feelings for Sophia, who could refuse such a pure and pretty girl? Especially since she had done so much for me. With some gentle persuasion, I ended up with her. Life after starting to date wasn't as sweet as I imagined. But I could always feel her intense love for me, even though she spoke little and was always cold. Yet she always took care of everything in my life. We both graduated from an arts college. She became a minor actress. And I, leveraging my family's connections, started filming short movies. I thought Sophia was at least after my money or my family's connections. But she wasn't.
Even when she was mistreated on set repeatedly, she never mentioned our relationship. Her sincerity moved me. What man wouldn't want a woman who loves him wholeheartedly? Especially when that person is a beauty.
I gradually fell for her, using my family's resources to help her rise, and she eventually became a movie star. I thought life would be happy from then on. But I didn't expect my family to fall into ruin, my mother losing her sight from the shock. After everything fell apart, Ethan returned to the country. I never imagined I was a stand-in for that man for 10 years. Sophia, you deceived me so cruelly. Even when I was penniless, I had to cover for the two of them for my mother's surgery. It was truly the height of humiliation. Martha knelt on the ground, continuously coughing out ashes from her mouth. She even desperately clawed at her throat, trying to expel me completely, as cleanly as possible. Her trembling hands scooped up the ashes from the ground, trying to put me back into the urn. But her eyes were empty, she couldn't even find where the urn was.
You wretched old woman, you once looked down on others, now this is your deserved retribution.
I stood in front of Martha in anger, but my expression involuntarily became a bit dazed. I never remembered my mother ever looking down on Sophia. Although the family didn't approve of me dating a girl from a poor background, as long as I liked her, my mother gave her all the respect she deserved. She never treated Sophia badly.
You think I don't know how wealthy your family is, but when we got married, you couldn't even give me a villa.
Do you know how disgusted I felt being with your son every day? Sophia's words pierced my heart like sharp knives. Our family did have some money and connections, but we weren't extravagantly wealthy. Even the funds for my short films came from me running around countless companies, gathering them bit by bit. I achieved something through my own efforts, gaining my parents' approval. My parents always believed that children needed to be trained, and since I was their only son, everything would be left to me eventually, so they treated me with ordinary standards in daily life. So this was the root of Sophia's dissatisfaction. She thought she had worked hard to marry into a wealthy family. But later she realized that this so-called wealthy family was just a figment of her imagination. Everything that didn't make sense was now explained. Because Ethan had money and was extravagant. As Sophia's first love, he gave her everything she had never seen or imagined. After pampering a poor girl into luxury, he left, and I became the fool who took over. It's absurd. Bright red blood continuously flowed from Martha's eyes. She was in extreme pain. I was even more devastated, kneeling beside Martha. If only her son hadn't been so blind back then, she wouldn't have suffered this torment. Unable to find me, they had vented enough. Sophia pulled out a stack of agreements from her bag and threw them in front of Martha.
Ethan's $3 billion loss can't go unpaid. Since we can't find your son, you, old woman, will have to pay.
She grabbed Martha's hand, wiped the blood off her face, and forced Martha to press her handprint on the agreement. The bright red handprint stung my eyes. Sophia was certain I wouldn't abandon Martha. Even if it meant exhausting all my efforts, I would repay that $3 billion for her. Putting away the agreement, Sophia gave Martha a look of disgust, spat on her, and then left, laughing coquettishly as she hooked her arm around Ethan's.
Ethan, it's my fault your stock price dropped. You must punish me well tonight.
Her words were suggestive, but I couldn't afford to be angry. I just knelt in front of Martha, helplessly trying to help her up again and again. Martha collapsed on the ground, lying on my ashes. She finally couldn't hold back, bursting into tears.
My son, Jason. It's all my fault. I couldn't even protect your peace after you were gone.
Perhaps because she cried too much, Martha fainted on the floor. I was frantic, unable to find a way to save her. If this continued, Martha might lose too much blood, her wounds never stopping. Blood had already pooled into a small puddle beneath her face. I tried to touch Martha's face, hoping to wake her, and she seemed to sense it, her fingers moving slightly.
Jason.
With a hoarse voice, Martha got up from the floor. She fumbled around the room, repeatedly bumping into the thumbtacks on the floor, but eventually found the phone. It wasn't until I saw Martha get into the ambulance that I felt a sense of relief. Then a wave of dizziness hit me, and I blacked out. When I woke up again, I found myself back in the apartment I shared with Sophia. It was a small apartment, the only advantage being its proximity to the film company and its privacy. We were secretly married, and this was where we spent most of our time. But now, the place where I usually stayed had another man. Ethan gently touched Sophia's cheek, his face full of affection. They exchanged a glance, the air thick with unspoken love. They couldn't help but kiss passionately. Ethan's hand lifted Sophia's skirt. I was so disgusted I nearly passed out. The overwhelming hatred made me want to end them. But I could do nothing. I couldn't kill them, couldn't stay by Martha's side, couldn't even break free from Sophia. I could only endure Sophia's torment over and over again. If heaven gave me another chance, I would never be so blind and deaf, investing any emotion in Sophia. I would make her life unbearable. If I hadn't been deceived by this woman, would I still have a happy family? Tears streamed down my cheeks, turning into white smoke and disappearing into the air. The feeling of a weakening soul made me feel like I was about to vanish. But I didn't want to die. I hadn't seen Sophia get her comeuppance. I was unwilling. As the two were lost in their affection, Sophia suddenly felt nauseous, and Ethan pushed her away in disgust. The sudden change left Sophia disoriented. Thinking of something, Sophia got off the bed and found a pregnancy test. In just half an hour, which felt like an eternity, she broke down upon seeing the result.
Ethan. Why am I pregnant?
Sophia was completely distraught. It was the peak of her career, and now she was pregnant? This caught both of them off guard.
Enough. Is being pregnant with my child so disgraceful? Since you're already pregnant, take a leave from the company and get a termination.
Ethan's decision was cold and heartless. A woman was carrying his child, yet he casually suggested terminating it, without a hint of concern. He didn't consider Sophia's health or whether her looks would suffer. The entertainment industry was brutally competitive. But even if she was unwilling, Sophia had to follow Ethan's orders. Because she couldn't keep the child. But the next moment, both their phones started ringing incessantly.
Check the trending news.
Sophia couldn't believe her eyes as she opened the trending news.
An affair? Pregnant with an illegitimate child? How could this have been exposed?
Ethan's face darkened even more as the company's stock price plummeted because of the scandal.
It must be Martha behind this. Let's go.
Avoiding the reporters surrounding the apartment, Sophia and Ethan rushed to Martha's hospital room. At that moment, Martha, dressed in a hospital gown, lay weakly on the bed. But hearing their arrival, she still had a faint smile on her lips.
You old hag. Was it you behind this?
Yes. It was all me. You ruined my son's life, and you should pay the price.
Ethan, in his rage, grabbed Martha and pinned her against the wall.
Don't think I won't harm you. You and your son are both scheming scum.
He grabbed the fruit knife from the table and stabbed Martha in the abdomen. Blood gushed out instantly.
Ethan, stop!
No. Mom.
The piercing sound of police sirens outside the villa brought Ethan back to his senses. He dropped the knife in a panic, instinctively trying to flee. I couldn't care less about Ethan, anxiously staying by Martha's side, desperately trying to stop the bleeding. But the blood kept flowing. Martha struggled to crawl on the ground, not calling for help, but picking up the knife again. Then, she decisively slashed her own neck.
Mom. Why are you so foolish?
As a man, I was now crying almost to the point of collapse. Martha was using her own life to gamble. Gambling that Ethan would become a criminal. Ethan didn't get far before the police pinned him to the ground, and Sophia was also taken away by the police. Medical personnel rushed in with a stretcher, trying to save Martha. But in the end, they could only shake their heads helplessly. I watched as Martha gradually lost her breath in my arms.
Alexis. Mom avenged you.
The shocking news of the actress and her lover's brutal treatment of her mother-in-law became the headline that rocked the entertainment industry. The actress, once seen as an untouchable beauty by her fans, was revealed to be married and having an affair with a financial mogul. She forced her husband to act as a stand-in, leading to a deranged fan throwing acid at him. She even found her mother-in-law and subjected her to various humiliations. Suddenly, everyone felt ashamed of having ever been a fan of Sophia, and they began to dig up all sorts of information about Ethan. Sophia had hoped that Ethan could help suppress these scandals. After all, the internet's memory is short, and she could make a comeback after some time. But what Sophia didn't expect was that Ethan's company collapsed and went bankrupt. It turned out he had returned to the country specifically to recover his company's losses. Unable to make money overseas, he thought of his ex-girlfriend, now a household name, and tried to use her to make money, only to lose $3 billion in the process. He didn't dare to reveal this, so he continued to put on a brave face and forced the company to operate. The larger the company appeared, the more precarious it became. Even though Martha was blind and mentally shattered by my passing, she had once been a formidable figure behind the scenes in the entertainment industry. She decisively suppressed the entire situation. She even made all the necessary arrangements before her passing. Her death became the catalyst and climax of the entire event. It forced Ethan's company into total collapse. Now, no one could save the two of them. Their misdeeds would not be covered up by anyone. Even rival companies took the opportunity to kick them while they were down, ensuring their fate would be worse than mine. This was Martha's final gift to me, her last act of love for her son. I cried in utter despair, my voice breaking. I could feel my soul growing weaker. Perhaps because my obsession had dissipated, I was ready to join my mother. Finally, I was free.